Good evening, JR.
What do you say, Phil?
Well, I say it's a beautiful day.
What is? You know what I did today?
Spectacular sky.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. I played a little golf today, Phil. And
Did you?
I thought I'd better take one more day.
Do you feel
because-
guilty about that?
No, no,
Okay.
no. I didn't shoot good though. But no, I didn't. I don't feel guilty. It was a pretty day.
JR, we're in session 4 of this section.
Yeah.
When well-meaning people interrupt your plans. You
Yeah.
haven't had well-meaning people interrupt your plans.
Well, we probably all have, haven't we?
This writer of this study talked about a guy named Peter Gregg. He was on his way home in England as he turned through Chicago's O'Hare Airport. He found out that the Icelandic volcano had erupted, and that's the flight path for his flight home to England.
Yeah.
And so it was going to be grounded. And so he prayed. He said, God, what would you have me to do here with this time that I've had, this interruption? And his thoughts went to a friend that he had in Madison, Wisconsin. His name was Joe, and he said, I'll call him up. He called him up. He said, hey, Joe, I'm in Chicago. What about me crashing on your couch? 150 miles away, you know.
Yeah, not too far.
And a really good friend. Well, what he didn't know was that Joe had just received some terrible news. And less than a half hour before that call, Joe's wife had asked him, who do you wish you had on your couch right now to
Who can you talk
discuss
to?
this?
Who would you like to talk to?
Discuss this
Yeah.
thing? And he said, I wish Pete was on my couch.
Yeah.
And there he is
And there
at
he
the
was.
airport calling him. It's spectacular the way that things work out sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
God will interrupt our lives with people in ways that we feel like, well, at the time, you know, we think, oh, it's an interruption, it's an inconvenience. But
You think about the interruption that occurred last night, Phil, after the plane crash in Louisville.
yeah,
The whole airport was shut down. And you know, normally you would hear, if it hadn't been because of that reason, people would have been fussing. I got to get home.
Yeah.
They interviewed a lot of people. Not a one of them talked about how how it had bothered them because of the reason it happened. You know, because of the accident.
well, Pete didn't mind being inconvenienced by Joe once he learned his
Yeah.
bad news. And sometimes God interrupts our lives like that in a way it feels like an answer to prayer. And that's what that felt like, I'm sure. Jesus was surrounded by people, but he took time for 2 desperate people, and we're going to look at that scripture today. And he responded with some spiritual sensitivity and power and healing and good things.
Right, for both of them, and
For
probably a
both
lot
of
more
them. For
during
both of them.
during that time frame too.
Especially for both of them. You
Yes.
know, he didn't
Yeah.
treat one different than the other, did he? Total healing. So we're looking in Luke, and we'll have excerpts from other scripture, but
Luke
main
chapter 8.
part of it, Luke chapter 8.
Yeah. And after we read the verses all, we'll go in a little bit of detail about what's happening right before this. It
Yeah.
says, when Jesus returned, the crowd welcomed him, for they were all expecting him. Just then a man named Jairus came. He was a leader of the synagogue. He fell down at Jesus' feet and pleaded with him to come to his house, because his only daughter, about 12 years old, because he had an only daughter, and she was about 12 years old, and she was dying. While he was going, the crowds were already crushing him. This is Jesus. Now, it says when Jesus returned, he's in this area of the Sea of Galilee. He's probably in Capernaum. Jesus had a if you call it a home base.
Yeah, that's what I like to call it, a home
Was in
base.
Capernaum. And he returned there a whole lot and stayed there a whole lot while he was during his 3 years of ministry. When it says he returned, he had been across the Sea of Galilee to the other side, over to the Gentile side. There's no Jews over there on that side. Well, there probably were a few, but not many. But we've talked before about Sea of Galilee. Sea of Galilee is like a upside down teardrop. And the top part's bigger, the bottom part runs out. The Sea of Galilee, the Jordan River runs in the top and out the bottom. He was going back and forth across the top a lot, which is about 8 miles wide. Sea of Galilee is a you can see it from one side to the other because it's got hills on both sides, but it's a big lake, a real big lake.
Yeah.
It's 13 miles long and it's 8 miles wide. So it wasn't an easy task to row across it. They didn't have a outboard motor.
Yeah.
They rowed back and forth across this thing. But anyway, it says Jesus returned and the crowd welcomed him, for they were expecting him. Phil, by this time in Christ's ministry, big crowds were always around him.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the only way he could get away from them was go out on the water or even go across to the other side of the lake and go up in the mountains where he could spend some time alone and probably pray for, spend some prayer time with God. But the crowd welcomed him when he got back because they were all expecting him. We don't know how many there were, but these verses tell us that they were almost crushing him. And when just then, as soon as Jesus got back to the shore, got off the boat, here comes Jairus. Now, it says here that Jairus was a leader of the synagogue. Now, that tells us that Jairus was definitely a Jew.
Yeah.
And now, being the leader of the synagogue did not mean that he was a teacher or he was a scribe or a Pharisee, but it meant that he was responsible for the building itself, the synagogue itself, and for the religious services that they had there, and in particular, the teaching that they taught there, the classes that they taught. I'm sure the children came through there for classes. Now the men would go for classes, the women wouldn't be involved in those classes, but he was responsible for the operation. Would be good way to put it, of the synagogue. There is no doubt that everyone that was from Capernaum knew Jairus and knew him well and knew what he was and knew that he was a strong, believing, worshiping Jewish man. Now, most cities that had any size to them had a synagogue. Capernaum was a pretty good sized city. It probably had hundreds of people, if not maybe 1,000 people. It was right on the shore of the Sea of Galilee. But Jairus comes to the shore. You can almost see, Phil, and almost expect that even though there was a large crowd there around Jesus, that Jairus probably had some leeway in getting to Christ, easier than the others, because of who he was. The people would have backed up and let him go through maybe because of who he was and who Jesus was. He wouldn't have had to fight his way through maybe as much as some of the other people, maybe even the woman we're going to talk about here later, who had a hard time getting to Jesus. But everybody knew Jairus, knew what he was, and for him to do what he's going to do, what you're going to tell us about, was probably difficult for him to do. Here Jairus, it says he fell down at Jesus' feet and pleaded with him to come to his house. Here's the leader of the synagogue there in Jerusalem going up to this. They call him a teacher, a lot of them did, but a lot of them thought he was
a scoundrel.
Scoundrel, that's right, exactly right. And he was falling at Jesus' feet.
Yeah.
Now, he was and we know how this would be, he was a distraught father pleading with the only hope he had for his daughter to live.
Right.
And what would we do in that case? We would do anything, whatever we thought would work.
If it cost you your life.
If it cost you life, it cost you your savings, whatever it took, we would do that very same thing. And that's what he was doing. He was giving up his reputation. He was possibly giving up his seat as leader of the synagogue by doing this, by going to this itinerant preacher who the Jews hated. A lot of the Pharisees and scribes hated him, and going to Jesus for this help. He gave up everything he had because of what he thought was the only way he could get his daughter saved. Like I said, the townspeople knew who he was, and so he's come to Jesus. He said that my daughter's dying. She's 12 years old. She's the only thing I have. But then the writer says, while he was going, the crowds were nearly crushing him. He wasn't the only one there. But I still believe that Jairus, with the being in the position he was, he had an easier task to get right face to face with Jesus rather than some of the others. But regardless of that, still, people were closing in around him and Jesus, I'm assuming, I'm sure they were, and almost crushing him because of Jesus' reputation, of what he could do and what his miracles he could perform, the people he had healed, and so forth. So that's the setting for it. He's returned from the other side of the Sea of Galilee. Now we know that those people over there were Gentiles, mainly, Phil, because we know the story. The story was that a man over there was possessed with demons, and Jesus went over, and the man met him up on the hillside, and Jesus exorcised the demons out of him. And they went into a herd of pigs, and the pigs ran off the side of the mountain or into the river or lake and drowned. We know that any good Jewish family would not have pigs running around in there.
No.
So,
And so why did Jesus do it? Think, why did he do it? Why did he help that guy?
because Jesus came here for everybody.
People matter to God.
That's right. That's right.
People matter. He brings people across our path to engage with all the time. And if we'll put others' needs before our own, we'll effectively minister and do what God wants us to do.
And I thought it was interesting when right before Jesus came back, the man wanted to come with Jesus because of what Jesus had done for him. He'd been in this condition for years, and the people even had a hard time going around him because he would attack them and so forth. And Jesus said, "No, you stay here and tell your friends what God did for you." Isn't that telling us something?
Yeah.
We come in contact with people all the time that we know, and we should minister to them.
I ran across a friend of mine that I used to work with years ago, and we worked together about 20 years. And I met him when I was getting my treatment, and he's got cancer. And I know God put him
Right there at the same
put
time.
him right there with me at the same time. And he didn't know about my situation. I didn't know about his either.
Yeah.
But we sat there, we caught up, and I got to hug his neck and tell him I loved him and that I would be praying for him.
There you go.
And you know, it's just, that's the way God does.
Exactly
He
the way
puts
he
us
does.
together
Yeah.
like that.
So Jesus has come back now, and now the people over there who had the hogs, the people in that area, they told Jesus to get out. It wasn't because of what he'd done, I don't think. They didn't like the loss of their hogs, for one thing.
Yeah.
But they were afraid because they didn't know as much about Jesus as a Jewish folk would on the other side. They didn't know that he was a miracle worker, that he could heal people, and they were kind of afraid of what he had done.
Well, you can just look at what he did over there. You know, he's casting demons in them swine. They take off and
they
drown themselves.
So they were a little bit concerned about Jesus being around. They sent him home. But anyway, Jesus is back now on the other side of the Sea of Galilee, and these crowds are crushing around him, and Jairus has come and fallen at his feet.
We're going to see him seize the opportunity that he gets here.
Yeah.
A woman suffering with this is a continuation.
Right.
He is on his way en route, and as you said,
To
the
Jairus'
crowds-
house, yeah.
Crowds are pressing in on him, and it's urgent. This girl is dying. She's 12 years old. It's a kid,
Yeah.
and you know, y'all hate to see a kid sick, especially. But it says in 8 verse 43 through 48, a woman suffering for bleeding for 12 years, who had spent all she had on doctors and yet could not be healed by any, approached from behind and touched the end of his robe. Instantly her bleeding stopped. Who touched me? Jesus asked. When they all denied it, Peter said, Master, the crowds are hemming you in and pressing against you. Someone did touch me, said Jesus. I know that power has gone out from me. When the woman saw that she was discovered, she came trembling and fell down before him. In the presence of all the people, she declared the reason she had touched him and how she was instantly healed. Daughter, he said to her, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. So here she has a physical issue like
Right.
many of us do,
Yep.
like many people outside the church, in the church.
Yep.
And she'd spent all she had on doctors, and they hadn't done her any good.
Yeah.
We ever heard of that? You got to understand, when they are sick with the issue that she had,
Right.
they're considered,
Yeah.
if you look back in Leviticus 15:25, they're unclean. They're not to be out in society. They're to stay in their own home, and they're not to attend worship services. All right, 12 years she's been
Yeah. Yeah. They're ostracized.
been put in. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's been put in the house. And couldn't get out. Couldn't do nothing.
And if someone had gotten around her and accidentally touched her,
They were unclean.
they had to go through the cleansing
They
process,
did.
which was not go wash your hands in a bowl of water. It was a long process.
Leviticus 15:25 talks about that. I'll let you all read it, and also Numbers 5:2, chapter 5, verse 2. But she had very limited contact with anybody other than her immediate family, and it just left her isolated from society. Spent all she had on doctors. Whoever do that, spend all her resources trying to get something straightened up, whether it be on doctors or whether it be a legal matter or
Right,
something.
right.
You know, the trouble comes in many forms, shapes, and sizes. But she done exhausted all of her remedies
Yeah.
and hadn't gotten any satisfaction at all. She goes out. JR, she had seen or heard of his miracles.
Right. Right.
And in her heart of hearts, she said, I don't need him to come. All I need to do is just touch the edge of his garment. And the power will come out, make me clean, and nobody will be the wiser.
Was that faith?
That's a great faith.
That's a great faith.
It's a
isn't it?
great faith.
Yep.
I think she really believed that he was going to heal her.
Yep.
And, you know, that's what he does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there's a whole lot to be said for really believing.
Yeah.
When we look at healthcare records across the country, the poor struggle with our healthcare system more than an affluent person would. So she's at the end of her rope. She's thinking, if I can just touch his robe. Then Jesus turns around and he said, who touched me?
Yeah.
Well, people, the disciples say, they're pushing in from all over. What do you mean who touched you?
Yeah. There's Peter coming
Yeah,
up there.
probably. But isn't that the way it is, though? You think you'll do something, do some little trick there to heal yourself, or do something to remedy your problems, and you get discovered.
Get caught.
This woman had a great faith. Jesus said, I know the power's gone out from me. What's that tell us about healing?
Tell us about God's in tune with what we need to start with. He knew exactly what was going on, what she needed.
In tune with what, and the power flows through him to
Yeah,
us
yeah.
to be healed. It's an incredible verse. If we're all the same, then isn't that the way it works? He said he felt the power go out in him. The woman came trembling and fell down. She had been healed. She didn't feel like falling down.
Right.
but out of respect, she did. She felt like jumping and celebrating
yeah.
because it immediately stopped. She immediately felt different. It doesn't say in what way, but it immediately stopped. And there in front of all the people, she tells them, she
had to
witnesses, she says, the reason she had touched him, she know that he would heal her. And then she told how instantly she had been healed. And Jesus said, it's your faith. It's your faith that's made you
When
whole.
he said that, is that meaning it's not me that's done it? It's your faith in me that's done it?
It's your faith in me.
You're right.
No, he can do it at any time.
Yeah, of course.
But that shows that it requires our faith
Yeah.
in him to take over and make things right. And I know you did the same when I was told I had prostate cancer. I turned it over to God that day.
Exactly right.
That day.
Yeah.
And there wasn't any doubt of him being able to heal me. It would be whatever he wanted to do.
Yeah.
I said, God, whatever road you want me to travel through this. Kind of like Joe and Pete there at the front. You
Right.
know, who you want on your couch.
Yeah.
I wanted God on my
You
couch.
want God beside you, didn't you?
That's right. And in doing that, I believe that he has healed me to do all the things that I've done.
Right.
So it
You just think how her life changed that instant.
well,
And-
she was immediately, well, after a few days, able to integrate back into society.
Right, exactly right.
And he said her faith had saved her. Her faith in him had made the healing go
Right.
and caused it to occur. But he's the one that did the healing.
Right.
She didn't do the healing. He told
But-
her to go in peace.
Not only had her faith, I think what that means is not only had her faith healed her, it has saved her for the future. I think when at that point in time, it's just like us now, accepting him as our Savior.
Well, you know she would have to be weak, losing blood all the time.
Yeah.
So, you know, we don't really know how bad her condition was. It could be that was all she could do, was
Yeah.
get out there in the street and maybe wait for him and
Yeah.
grab that garment. But we can't let those interruptions keep us from our original assignment.
What was Jarius doing while this was happening?
Well, he was with Jesus.
And right,
He
but
was with
was he
Jesus.
griping and complaining?
He was
pulling
wanting to
pulling
go.
on his
I'm sure
arm,
he was
maybe?
wanting to get to his house.
I'm sure, yes, he was going to get.
And
Yes,
of course he was.
it doesn't say anything about that, but you got to know that he was wanting Jesus to come on. We've been in positions like everyone say, come on, we got to go. Let's go.
But how long does this take? A minute or
It
two?
doesn't take too long.
I know that can make a difference in life or
Right.
death,
Well, we'll
but
see.
they weren't that close.
Yeah.
You know, as far as getting there in time
Yeah,
to heal her. But we also see that we shouldn't let these interruptions keep us from returning to our original assignment.
Right.
God ordained interruptions occur, and they call for a sensitive heart. Sometimes it's nothing but hugging somebody's neck and telling them you love them, and that you're gonna pray for them.
Yeah. And sometimes it's actually praying right then
Yeah,
and saying, yes, let's have a little prayer.
yeah.
How many times, this is a story that we've had written, I wonder how many times this similar situation played out. Maybe not that someone was dying, but when you take the ministry Jesus had for 3 years and how many people he ran into, thousands of people came
The
to him.
scripture says that if they recorded them all,
Wouldn't be enough
There
books in the world.
wouldn't be enough books in the whole world to
write down
record
there.
all the miracles that he'd done.
Everything he did. Yeah.
So this is occurring all over the place.
Yes. And you know that as a human, at times Jesus got tired. And at times, Jesus wanted to say, come back tomorrow. My office hours are over. But he didn't do that. We know that he did at times have the disciples stay in the area, and he would go off on his own, like we said earlier, and rest and pray.
Yeah.
But we don't think he ever turned anybody down. He did not let the interruptions bother him.
Well, sometimes you get an interruption on an interruption.
Yeah.
And that's what happens here.
That's exactly right.
With the next passages.
We continue on in chapter 8 with verse 49 and 50. Then we skip a couple, but we'll talk about those too. In 49 it says, while he was still speaking, this is Jesus speaking to the lady about her issue, about how she's been healed. Someone came from the synagogue leaders, that's Jairus' house, and said, your daughter is dead. Don't bother the teacher anymore. When Jesus heard it, he answered him. He's talking to Jairus now. Don't be afraid, only believe, and she will be saved. And then we go to verse 54. So he took her by the hand. Jesus has now got to Jairus' house, and he's in the room with the little girl. So he took her by the hand and called out, child, get up. Her spirit returned, and she got up at once. Then he gave orders that she be given something to eat. His parents were astonished, but he instructed them to tell no one what had happened. Jesus is still there talking about the lady, and Jairus gets news that his daughter's dead. And of course, Jesus is right. He's like, we ask, where was Jairus? Jairus was right there beside him, and Jesus heard everything that was said between him and his servant and Jairus. And Jesus said, he said, don't bother Jesus anymore. She's already died. And Jesus said, don't be afraid, only believe. He could have said, have the faith this lady just had, who knew that all she had to do was touch my garment and he would heal her, and I would heal her. Only believe and she will be saved.
Or he could have said, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But he wants to help people.
He wants to help people, exactly right. Now, we know that when he got to the house, that several things were going on. One, there was mourning and gnashing of teeth and already started. And Jesus told him to stop. She's not dead. She's only asleep, is what Jesus told those people. And they laughed at him. The people laughed at him because they knew she was dead. They knew that they had seen her die right in front of her eyes and so forth. But Jesus said, stop mourning, wailing, and weeping because she's not dead. She's only asleep. And then he takes Peter, James, and John, and the mother and the father into the room with the girl and tells everybody else to get out. Don't need anybody else in here. Now, once again, we see there Peter, James, and John. That was his three main disciples that he used more than any of the rest. But they were all there, of course. But those three were there, and he goes in the room, and he takes her by the hand and says, "Get up." Her spirit returned. She got up at once. He gave her orders to get something to eat, and then he told them to not tell anybody. Different than what he told the man on the other side of the Sea of Galilee.
Why is that?
When he said, "Go tell your friends." I don't know. The writer says, give about three things maybe that was the reason he did that. He said maybe they needed some quiet time between the parents and the daughter.
Yeah, they might have.
And because we don't know how long she might have been bedridden for weeks or days, or maybe just happened a few hours before, but she needed some quiet time. Here's somebody that's actually dead, but yet now she's alive. Maybe he didn't want the little girl to be a curiosity to the crowd.
Yeah.
They would have crowded around and said, "What happened? How does it feel like to be dead?" You know, we get
That'd
that.
be scary for the kid.
For a little 12-year-old girl, it would be very scary. And then he finally says that more likely that the writer says that Jesus' single-minded mission here on earth was his purpose to fulfill his purpose of dying on the cross so we could have salvation. It wasn't to be a healer and a miracle worker, although we know he was that. But that wasn't his main mission here on earth. He didn't want to be remembered as that. He wanted to be remembered as one who died on the cross for our sins. So maybe he didn't want to call attention to himself at that particular time. He said to stay in here with her for a while till she gets. Maybe she was weak. We don't know. She was weak. I'm assuming she was. You don't just come back from life and then spring, jump up and start running around. So, but once again, we see Jesus saying, "Don't be afraid, only believe." You went through that. I went through that when we heard our diagnosis. We were concerned, but we knew that whatever happened would be God's will, and we weren't afraid of what we were facing. We just said we'll work it out. We'll do what God and the doctors tell us to do. What we want to do, we'll do those, and we won't be afraid. Whatever happens, happens. If it's our time to leave now, we'll leave now and be tickled to death, because we're like Peter, Paul said, be absent from this world's be in the presence of God. But he said, don't be afraid, only believe. You remember the time when the disciples were in the storm on the Sea of Galilee?
Yeah.
And Jesus was laying down at the bottom of the boat asleep.
Yeah.
And they were all concerned about it. He said, what did he ask me? He said, where's your faith?
He got interrupted, didn't he?
Yeah, his sleep got interrupted. You're gonna be all right. I'm here with you. Don't worry about it. Don't be afraid. Just believe. And that's what he tells Jairus' dad, or Jairus, and that's exactly what we see happen. There was a lot of chaos there that day, Phil. And we don't, like we said, we don't know how many other people Jesus went on and healed in the next half a day or hours or whatever it was after this, after the daughter was brought back to life and then the lady was healed. But we know that when Jairus learned his daughter was dead, he was bound to be filled with grief and loss. We can't imagine. We haven't lost a child, so we don't know, but we can partly realize what that might have felt like. Yet Jesus interrupted that moment with Jairus and said, don't worry about it, don't be afraid. I'm going to heal her, she's going to be okay. Jesus continued his original mission of getting to Jairus' house and healing Jairus' daughter, even though he was interrupted by the lady, which he obviously wanted to heal. And we don't know how many other people interrupted him along the way, but he'll do the same thing for us.
Yeah.
He doesn't get distracted by what's going on around him.
And it's interesting the way he always would buck tradition and buck the law.
Yeah.
He took the girl by the hand,
Yeah.
which defiled him
Yep.
from teaching or going in
Right.
the synagogue or anything else. He takes her by the hand and he tells her something she hear every morning. Child, get up.
Yeah.
You know, how many times your mama say that to you?
That's
I mean,
right.
it's 7 days a week.
Yeah,
Get up,
yeah,
get up.
yeah.
You know, so something that she understood. And when the one that it's the resurrection and the life says get up, you get up.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what she did. Do you think the parents were overjoyed?
I would think the parents were having a fit. I think they wanted to go out and tell everybody they could, but Jesus said, "Let's stay in here for a while and let everything be calm." They were tickled to death. Do you think, how you think Jairus, wonder how his position changed. I wonder how his belief changed.
Yeah.
Of course, Jairus had to have faith to start with. If he hadn't had faith, Phil, he wouldn't have looked Jesus up when he got off the boat on the shore of the Sea of Galilee. He wouldn't even have been there. So he had faith in God. Plus, we know that he didn't have any other hope.
Yeah.
And as a desperate parent, we'll do whatever we have to,
Yeah.
or spouse even. But he had faith. And
Jesus is so tuned into us and what our needs are.
Yeah.
We just need to become people oriented.
Yeah.
Care about others. Put them first. Put them first. Create a list of people that you know are having some kind of personal crisis or perhaps a health crisis,
Yep.
financial crisis, whatever. and just make a list and then lift them up in prayer. Give them a hug.
Yeah.
Help them out however you can. If you hadn't got a heart for people, then ask God for a heart transplant
Yeah.
of the spiritual kind, and He'll give it to you. He'll show you what a heart for people looks like, whether it be through some other or through some opportunity that falls in your lap, and you carry out, and you just feel good all over. People desperately in need of what Jesus can provide, but He likes to use us to help him get that done, don't He?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You think Darius was afraid when his little girl, they come and said he died, that she died?
I think Jerry thought it's too late.
Yeah.
It's what Lazarus' sisters thought. Well, you don't come in here now. He's already stinking. And even with the faith they had, they had seen him perform miracles.
But the Bible says, doesn't say anything. It says, that he believed.
Yeah.
And that's all Jesus told him to do, was to believe.
Jesus said, "Don't be afraid, only believe." And I'm assuming when he said that he perked right back up.
So
he said, "Come on, let's go. Let's get
So
there."
when you're afraid, trust him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Trust him.
yeah.
It's a good study.
Yes.
I always like this story, and there's so much more than just, you sit back and look at all the emotion around these things.
Yeah.
The desperation, and people unable to get any help.
The lady probably.
They were both, they had no help, no one who could help them.
If Jesus had not helped this woman or healed this woman, look at the trouble she would have been in for being out in a crowd of people. She would have been in trouble. I mean, serious trouble, because she's unclean, and yet she had the faith to risk that, because she knew all she had to do was get close.
Yeah.
All she had to do was touch him. Yeah.
I imagine those two were scared to death too, he about his daughter,
Yeah.
and then she about whether or not she's gonna live tomorrow,
Right.
and if she would ever be back in society.
Right. Exactly.
When you get that fear in your pit, you need to turn that over to Jesus, and
And
He'll act on it.
As it said there, don't be afraid. Just turn it over to
Do
him.
not be afraid.
Yep.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yes, it is.
Hope you can enjoy it. We enjoyed bringing it to you. Perhaps you can watch us again next week. We'll bring you another study of interruptions.